was a hypo, and I'm like, welcome to Comics League Movie Night. I'm Jared. Today we're talking about Legion of Superheroes, aka Supergirl's debut into the Tomorrowverse series of movies. So let's get started. So first off, this movie is the 6th film in the next phase of DC animated movies. So you have like Superman, the 2 Batman movies, the JSA World War II movie, then you have the Green Lantern movie, and I think this. So as we are in the timeline, we have the Justice League is established because they were established at the end of Long Halloween. And then you have Supergirl is debuting in this movie, which I think it's very interesting that we never see Supergirl actually arrive on Earth. What we do see is essentially is like we get like the part that comes after she arrived, which I'm thinking was it more of the actually, you know what, we do see her origin, so just that comes in the Crisis movies, which I felt was kind of interesting when I first watched it, because I was like, wait, that's what happened in between those 2 movies? It's weird. But so let's get started. So I'm going to read through the plot. We'll talk about different points to talk about the movie, and then we'll just talk about the Tomorrowverse in general. So in Argo City on Krypton, Allura has been preparing for a catastrophe her brother Jor-El has predicted will destroy the planet. So in other words, it's like Allura Zor-El is like saying, hey, the planet's going to blow up, because Jor-El is telling us the planet's going to blow up. So essentially she's running with Kara, and then during this run, by the way, she is voiced by Jennifer Hale. So I'm like, oh, hell yeah. It's a real hailstorm. It gets automatic 5 points in my rating system. But essentially the planet starts to blow up. And obviously, so what they establish in this, which is actually, you know what's kind of interesting? This is similar to Absolute in that there were escape ships built, like multiple like escape pods. They were built. The problem is when Allura types in the commands to like power them up, not all of them are active. So that is very, now that I think about it, it's extremely similar to what was established in Absolute Superman. So I'm like, I wonder if Jason Aaron watched this movie and got that. I don't know. But the point is, Kara leaves. And then for those of you that know, the typical story is she leaves Krypton, she gets caught in like a wormhole and shows up on Earth. She was originally supposed to protect Kal-El. That's why they sent her. But when she arrives, he is like a 30-year-old guy, or however old he is when he becomes Superman. And he's like being a superhero, so he has to guide her. And you kind of get the starting point of this later. I'm speeding through this one's origin because we'll get more of that in the Crisis movies, which we'll cover as one movie, because there's no way I am going to do 3 movies for one, which really should have been one movie. But as it goes on, so then we get Solomon Grundy doing like trying to like hunt down Superman. Which, here's the thing: Solomon's a firmly established Batman villain, and he's hunting Superman. See, this is the interesting thing that I always thought about with with some DC content. They mix and match the villains a lot. Like, I watched this show once called Powerless, which was essentially what do the average people do in a world with superheroes. And the news report is Sinestro has retreated after fighting the Flash. So I'm like, the Flash? What? Why? He's not a Flash villain, but I get it. It's like you want to put a little more variety in there, which I was fine with that. And even with this, they did some cool stuff with it. Like Kara fights Grundy, but she's a little more destructive than she should be because she doesn't necessarily know how to control her powers. So Clark comes in and takes out Grundy alongside Batman. And then Batman basically insults Kara by saying she's a threat. So she really he basically says she has no place here because she's potentially a threat. And then Kara goes and hangs out at the farm. At the same time, there's the break-in at Star Labs, which leads to like essentially the Brainiac head being stolen. And hey, what's up, Thoth? And then what happens is Clark takes Kara into the future to meet the Legion of Superheroes, because he's like, hey, they help me train, they can help you train. So she enrolls in the Legion of Superheroes. She meets Brainiac 5, who will be very important later, who is basically a douche in this movie, but that's just Brainiac 5. And then you meet the other, I almost said all the Kryptonians. Oh, geez. You meet the other Legionnaire trainees, because there's like a class of them that are being trained and going through like essentially college to become full-fledged members of the Legion. And they go through training, like how to build robots, how to like control your powers and such. And then you see Kara and Brainiac bonding. And there's this other character named Mon-El. Now, Mon-El is very interesting because he is essentially, in some ways, he is a Kryptonian, because he's from a neighboring planet called Daxam. The thing with the Daxamites is that what happened, the thing about them is that, so in the same way that like kryptonite is poisonous to Kryptonians, lead is poisonous to Daxamites. You have that. And so that's basically the difference. And he's kind of shady in this movie for reasons that I'm like, oh God. But more on that later. So essentially, one of the Legionnaires named Triplicate Girl is murdered outside, and they blame Brainiac. But Brainiac 5 essentially says, hey, there's this organization called the Dark Circle that's trying to like destroy the world, destroy reality and such, because they want access to, in the Legion's vault, there's this thing called the Miracle Machine, which is a wish machine essentially. This will play a significant role in Crisis, and then you get to essentially, the Miracle Machine was also introduced in Final Crisis, because that was the way that they undid everything Darkseid did. Superman built a wish machine and made a wish that everything goes back to normal, but not before he sung Darkseid to death. Yes, that's right. In Grant Morrison's Dark Crisis, Superman sung the bad guy to death. And I'm like, oh, jeez. So then so only Kara believes Brainiac, and they go to the vault and they manage to get in. But Mon-El turns out to be an agent of the Dark Circle and stabs Kara with kryptonite. And essentially the other Black Circlers, if you will, show up, and they start taking over the Legion's headquarters. They've replaced like a hologram of the Legionnaires and replaced it with like a circle, if you will. They're very original. And so this is very interesting. So the Circle's leader shows up, and it's Brainiac. But wait, he was shot in the head. And he goes, yeah, but the kryptonite bullet from JSA, yes, it went through my head, but enough was left, so I was able to build around it. So what the Circle did, this is the most body horror thing. Again, this is why I'm wondering if Aaron watched this movie as well, because, or at least the artist for Absolute Superman did, because if you look at the most recent iterations of Brainiac, it kind of looks like that. Essentially what they have done is they have cloned Brainiac a bunch of times, taken the clones and literally merged their bodies. Like, he has other mouths and faces on him. And I'm like, that is scary as hell, man. And weird. But weird in a good way, because it's alien enough, and I'm like, okay, that's really cool. It's a little more mature. What's up, Cameron? It's a little more mature than I would have thought for an animated DC movie, but DC's animated projects typically go a lot more mature than Marvel does, unless, of course, you're talking about the Ultimate Avengers movies, which I still say are extremely mature. But then what you get is Brainiac pulls the knife out of Kara, and obviously they have a romantic relationship. and then they managed to they send an SOS to the other Legionnaires in space because a portion of the Legion was in space. And so what happens is the other Brainiacs that are on Brainiac rebel and basically rip Brainiac apart literally in half. And I'm watching this and I'm like, oh God. And then essentially Brainiac and Brainiac 5 and Kara, man, this is really confusing. And Kara put their hands on the wish machine and basically wish that it would like undo everything. So it does. And the Legion shows up, and the Legion trainees show up actually, and defeat the Circle and Mon-El. And then the rest of the Legion shows up and votes all of them into the Legion of Superheroes. And then we get the ending of the movie, Long Live the Legion. That is correct. Long live the Legion. So then you get the ending is, so Kara is essentially FaceTiming Clark like a time portal. Clark meets Brainiac 5, and then the portal closes. But then essentially Batman goes, you didn't tell her, did you? And then Superman goes, how can I ask her to come back and face this? And all of a sudden, there's like this big smoldering hole in the ground. And all of a sudden, Batman and Superman are blasted by this beam that seemingly disintegrates them. We'll learn what happened to them in the next movie, but it's very interesting. By the way, Yuri Lowenthal, aka Spider-Man, voices Mon-El, so he was actually the villain in this movie. That's actually, I think that's really cool. That's very interesting there. And let's see who else we see. Yeah, Jennifer Hale. Yes, there you go. So it's a lot of great voice actors for this. All in all, I enjoyed this movie, not really as much as the previous. Let me put it this way: of the Tomorrowverse movies, this is my second least favorite. My first least favorite being the Green Lantern movie, but the rest of them are pretty awesome. This one just seems a little meh to me, really. That's really the way I kind of feel about it. But it's not bad. None of these movies are really bad because that would really suck. But yeah, what do you guys think? Yeah, the Green Lantern one was awful. I was like, what the hell is this? What do you guys think? Because all in all, with the overall Tomorrowverse movies, I really liked them, as opposed to, because here's the problem with the AMU movies. In other words, the first like 13 movies that came out before like Man of Tomorrow. Those movies were good up until like halfway, when they started to try and force in post-crisis on a new 52 inspired world. Now, here is the thing. What the Tomorrowverse did, it just established a younger version. They didn't do it as much, because when you get to like halfway through the DCAMU, they just did over and all post-crisis stories, and it got really annoying. And then Lord Thoth says, I am a 60s, 70s Legion purist, so 2 out of 10. Oh, not bad. I like that. Now, yeah, in terms of that's a very... It's interesting the way that works, but add 80s in for the Dark Side story, which is the best Legion story of all time. Yes, I read that. That is so dope. Like, I did not expect that to happen, because that's one of the, my opinion, honestly, one of the best DC stories of all time. Just how epic and grand that story feels. And it is just really, really, really dope. Let's see. What other things shall we discuss? What other movie? That's how you do Dark Side. Yes, exactly. Exactly. See, here's the thing. Too many DC... the thing about DC and the way they handle Darkseid is that they put him too much as like the main, like really big bad guy, and because because to the outside he seems to be, oh, he's just DC's Darkseid, and I'm like, okay, that's true. I get what you're going for. The problem is that's a very simplistic way of looking at that, and I'm like, that's not the way that kind of works. So I kind of get that, but it's very it's I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a big Darkseid fan because I really enjoy that character. Like, he's like my number, I would say he and Deathstroke are tied as my number one DC villain. So that was kind of the way that kind of worked. So then essentially so the movie will back to the movies. The next movie in the series is the Justice League Warworld Saga one, which we'll definitely discuss. And yes, Lord thought Darkseid is the top 5. Yes, he is. He is 100% the top 5. Particularly when you look at his story with the New Gods and stuff, that was freaking dope. And how powerful he is, because what people don't forget, when you're actually fighting Darkseid, you're not actually fighting Darkseid, if you will. What you're actually doing is you're like essentially fighting like is that you're fighting essentially a physical avatar of Darkseid. That's the thing. Because if you were to blow up, like, let's say, Darkseid's body, like they did in Final Crisis, or like they did in the All In special, Darkseid's spirit still lives. So you literally cannot kill Darkseid. And they actually established this in the Crisis movie, which I'm looking forward to getting to, because he is like a multiversal constant. So you really, really, really cannot defeat Darkseid. You literally can't. Which, hey, I'm fine with that, because I like having this one character that you technically cannot kill. What else do you guys want to talk? Darkseid is a dark god. He controls a planet of evil and is ancient. He's a match for... Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. People forget... because I see people on Twitter all the time arguing that Zack Snyder should not have used Darkseid because Darkseid's not a Superman villain. And I was like, he's a New Gods villain. I'm like, he literally debuted in an episode of Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen. So if you're talking, they thought he was just a New Gods character like Jack Kirby. And I'm like, he's not. He didn't debut in that series. That was just the first one to really highlight him that much. Darkseid debuted in a Superman book, so he is a Superman villain. It's just what modern fans like forget is that when you see someone so associated with like New Gods and stuff, you forget where he came from, because Darkseid's kind of transcended that. Pun intended, because he is a god. But what else do you guys got? NJ says Presence or Lucifer can kill Darkseid if they wanted to. Again, see, here's again, NJ, probably, because the Presence is God, so I kind of get that. But it's still like, I mean, can you? That would be an interesting story, though, NJ. That would be an interesting story. Yes, he wanted to see CGC 8.5. Nice, bro. Yeah, that's great. Darkseid's not a Superman villain. How these people are. Actually, Cameron, he is he's a Superman villain that has surpassed that, because he debuted in a Superman book. That's the way I kind of count like who's a villain or something like that. Nice, dude. My favorite CGC that I own is this one. I own the CGC of Superman Wonder Woman by Charles Sewell that is signed by Charles Sewell. So I found this at my on midtowncomics.com when I want to get that. Darkseid is definitely a Justice League villain. Yes, he has grown to be a Justice League villain for that. And I would argue he is, if there's one villain that's kind of the big bad of DC, of all of DC, it's Darkseid. That's what I would say. Of all of, not just Justice League, of all of DC, it is Darkseid. That's why they keep using him. And that's the thing. When people complain about Darkseid being the main villain of DC, I'm like, hey, it's because he's the most popular villain that's fought the Justice League. That's why they use him and stuff. I don't get why that's a problem. Yeah, and yes, it is an awesome cover. I really love how like it blends Superman and Wonder Woman's world together. That was a really fun series. I love it. I love it. What else do you guys would you guys like to talk about in terms of like these movies? In terms of about so fun fact, and NJ, you'll appreciate this. The JSA movie was supposed to be a series of Wonder Woman movies. I love DC. It's my fave. Yeah, DC is my fave too, just because of like the mythological position of DC as opposed to that. Do you like Starro and Despero as main Justice League villains instead of Darkseid? No, I like them as villains. Let me put it this way: could either of those be great Justice League villains? Yes. Are both those great Justice League villains? Yes, absolutely. I mean, Starro was the first Justice League villain, and Despero has had fantastic stories. I prefer Darkseid myself, but yeah, I'm not like saying that there aren't other villains that can fight the Justice League. They definitely, all those can be, because with Justice League, the thing about Justice League is that you need really like world-ending threats, and that's the thing about the few years when DC replaced the Justice League with the Titans. They never had them do, like Tom Taylor never had them do Justice League level stuff. They did it was literally like they were just fighting Titans level stuff, and that's, if you're going to replace them and have them be like the main super team, you got to give me something like that. With Thought says, I love all the classic Justice League villains, even Mongol. Yeah, Mongol's dope. He's really great in the Superman Returns game. You actually fight him a couple of times. It's really fun. But yeah, it's very, very, very interesting there. By the way, happy Free Comic Book Day, everyone. So I went by my store today and participated, because you got to support your local comic book shop. I even bought some stuff that I wanted just because. Actually, you know what? I'll show you guys. Hang on. So let me get the books that I bought today. I'm just grabbing my stuff here. Okay. Let me get my stack. So what I picked up today, I haven't gone to my shop. But they normally, yeah, that works. So I picked up is obviously I picked up two more books on my pull list, which is Ultimate Spider-Man 16 and the Detective Comics Annual. But I also picked up variant cover for Absolute Wonder Woman #7, because I always pick up variant covers, and when I went to begin this month, they didn't have any. So I picked up this one, and this variant cover is by Declan Shalvey. I picked up Absolute Flash #1 because I didn't, because again, I didn't pick up Absolute Flash #1. I have #2, and I got a variant cover for #1 and #2. And then for my Free Comic Book Day issues, I got the All-In special because I want the Superman stuff and the information in the Absolute Universe, the Energon Universe, Star Wars, this one called Planet Death. It's kind of cool. And this worst Transformers worst spot ever. So I picked that up. And then I got the trade of Earth X, the newly reprinted Earth X trade. and Miracle Man Book 1. So I really lucked out there. And just says Cersei and Ares can easily be Justice League villains as well. When they were actually at one point both soloed the whole Justice League and Justice League Dark individually. Yeah, exactly. A lot of Wonder Woman villains could be Justice League villains because of the sheer power. Because after all, they are freaking gods, so that does kind of help them in that direction, if you will. That's the thing. It's like, what's interesting about it is like, in terms of like who's a Justice League villain, just pick any god. That's why I've long said that DC really should do more stories where the Greek gods come into conflict with the Justice League. And I'm surprised that hasn't happened, because here's the thing. You would think that the gods, being as petty and like petty as they are, they would go into conflict with the Justice League much more often. So that would be me if I were to write a DC event. That would be what I would do, is have the gods go to war with the Justice League because they're jealous of the love and adoration that the League gets. Because I'm like, again, that's a storyline that we haven't seen before, as far as I know, except for like an Injustice. But but I believe you guys all know my opinion on Injustice. And I feel like that would also be a great NJ Wonder Woman event, because it places Wonder Woman in sort of a prickly situation, particularly no matter the origin, whether or not Zeus or Clay, because if it's the Zeus origin, obviously she has to fight her own family, because she's going to fight on the side of the Justice League. But when you do it with the Clay origin, she has to fight the people that she has worshipped so long. And again, you still have that with you still essentially have that with you still essentially have that with regular Wonder Woman, but you can have a lot more of those stories in there that I think would be dope. What else you guys got? Cheetah also soloed the Justice League in the New 52 with the Raw speed alone. She owned the Flash. Yeah, exactly. And she like cut the Flash's like leg, and when she turned Superman to Super Cheetah, that was dope. Yeah, people sleep on how powerful the Wonder Woman villains are. I've always felt that like maybe Veronica Cale would team up with Lex Luthor to take down the League. There's a story for you, NJ, where Veronica Cale teams up with Lex Luthor. Now that is a see. Here's the thing. DC, let me write your stories. I'll write you a killer Wonder Woman event, and you know what? It will probably sell well. But again, DC doesn't want to actually think through their stories. They'd rather be stuck in staleness. But that's fine, because I'm just because here's the thing. I don't care if anyone from DC ever listens to me, because you know what? I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. I love talking about comic books. I love my audience. That's all I need. That's really all I need. That's why, see here, that's why my attitude for YouTube was really like, as long as I'm not going in there trying to get like thousands of views and stuff. I mean, that's nice. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to complain, but it's not like I'm doing this to get the views. I'm doing this because I genuinely love this. And as I've always said, as long as one person watches and finds some value from what I put out, then I am 100% satisfied, because you know what? I'm doing this because I love comics and I want to share that love with other people. Cameron says if Veronica Cale was created earlier, she definitely would have been part of the light. I know, right? They should. Well, then again, what Wonder Woman villain was in the light? Let me look that up real quick. Hang on. YOU. If I can remember how to spell Justice the Light. Let's see, what villains were put on the light? I need to see this. All right, so it was. All right. Vandal Savage, Lex Luthor, Queen Bee, Clarion, Deathstroke, Ultra Humanite, and Zaslav Zodi. There are no Wonder Woman villains on this. What? There are no Wonder Woman villains. That is weird. Now that you mention it, there are no Wonder Woman villains. Wow. That is that sucks. I mean, it's like, why aren't Wonder Woman villains included in any of the villain teams except for like Cheetah and like the Legion? That is just BS. Like, what the hell is going on with this? It seems Veronica Cale is going to be the Lex Luthor of the Absolute Universe and playing a major role in Wonder Woman, the potential Absolute Justice League. Yeah, exactly. That's cool. I like that. It astounds me how much respect the Wonder Woman from Hell book is doing compared to the universe Wonder Woman book. Like, this is, again, this should not work as well as it does. Somehow, this is because, again, they kept to the spirit of who Wonder Woman is. And who would have thought that if you do that, and essentially see, here's the thing. This is what Absolute Wonder Woman demonstrated, and the Absolute Universe in general demonstrated. You can change virtually everything about these characters, but if you keep them true to who they are, people will show up. That's the lesson I really hope DC is taking from this. Granted, they are DC, so maybe they won't, but you never know, guys. You never know. It could be, but we'll have to see, because remember, we're still not a year in with the Absolute Universe, but if things keep going, I genuinely think that this is going to be the thing that saves DC, because according to a friend of mine, before the Absolute Universe launched, DC was in a really bad position in terms of like sales and stuff. But then the Absolute Universe showed up and practically again saved DC, much like the New 52 did again. Which again, Brent and I are literally like, how does it feel to be right all the time with all this? And we're like, yeah, it feels really good. Feels really good to be wrong about most of this when we come down to it. What do you guys think? What else do you guys want to chat about? Could be anything you guys want to talk about. Overall, I give, by the way, the Legion movie, say a 7.5 out of 10. It's still a fun movie. Not my favorite of the Tomorrowverse movies. I wish, honestly, it would have been a little tighter, but all right, I'll take it. Three out of 10, of course, thought. Yeah, I could see why you would think that, as the more purist as you are, and that's totally fine, bro. That's it. I'll give you that. I still I give it that high because it's like, I genuinely just enjoy it. And I'm not like as knowledgeable of the Legion as you probably are, so that's kind of why I go with that. What other topics interest you guys? Mon-El really -6 right there. Yeah, I know. The Mon-El part is where I'm like, actually, you know what? I'm going to take off a 0.6. I'll give it a 6 right there, because I'm like, oh, God, really? Why did you do this? Why did you make Mon-El? Why does the close to Kryptonian, he's a Daxamite, he's close to a Kryptonian. Why does he have to be the bad guy? I mean, why? That doesn't work with me. It just gets really just stupid with that. I'm like, oh, come on, guys. But so what else? What else do you guys want to chat about? It could be Wonder Woman, DC, whatever you guys want. Because I'm probably gonna go for at least another half hour. So let's see. in terms of they're putting respect on Wonder Woman in her world, because as cool and epic as the Absolute Universe is, it's still an Elseworld. DC doesn't have the balls to respect her in the main lore where it matters. Yeah, I know. That is very true, though. That is very interesting. Interesting way of looking at it, because it is an Elseworlds. But here's the thing: we've had in continuity. Here's the thing, NJ. We've had in continuity runs that have respected Wonder Woman's world. It's just currently it feels like they don't do in the main universe because Tom King is on it, and Lord knows he doesn't care about the Wonder Woman world. So it's like, yeah, it's essentially that is a good point. It's just like I wish we could get more like I wish we could get more writers on Wonder Woman that actually cared about the character, because that's how we get like iconic runs like George Perez. So it's like you kind of have to like vet your writers more. I get that you have to publish Wonder Woman comics with some months as a break, and Sheeta crapped on. Yeah, I know. I'm like, Wonder Woman would never say this, but it's very I don't get what is going on with Wade, because remember he supposed that's why, again, NJ, this is my theory, and I've said this to Britt on the show. I think that Kingdom Come was largely an Alex Ross project, and King came in and like tightened up the script, because when you look at Kingdom Come, the difference could not be more stark. Whereas when you look at where Wade has written her any other like locations, it's very much not like it should be. Let me put it to you that way. And so I'm watching this and I'm like, it would explain also why Wade has been crapping on Kingdom Come so much, because people are starting to pick up on that. Guess what? It's not like he's not like the. I think people have started to pick up on the fact that Kingdom Come was more Alex Ross and less Mark Waid, and that kind of explains why obviously he's gone total anti Kingdom Come. He's been talking about where Superman can never fail and stuff. So I'm like, no, it was more Alex Ross. And you read because Alex Ross 100% respects Wonder Woman. Him and Chip Kidd wrote that story called Spirit of Truth, which is collected. I'll pull it up for you guys because I love ya. Where did I put it? Because he and Alex Ross did this. Okay, here we go. Did this series called World's Greatest Superheroes, and where each character got a story where actually it was Paul Dini, not Chip Kidd, which even more shows that Justice League was more that like the DC AU was more Paul Dini at first, because when you look at Wonder Woman in Justice League, this is it's 100% not this Wonder Woman, but you have Wonder Woman Spirit of Truth. Actually, you know what? Why am I holding up a book to the screen when I could just share it? Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. You guys want to see some dope art? Let's do that. Let's do that. Britt and I were actually able to devote an entire episode to this because this book deserves it. Wonder Woman's Spirit of Truth. I'm pulling it up on DC Online because this is one of the most gorgeous Wonder Woman books I have ever seen, ever beheld at all. Let me go to almost the very beginning here. All right. Here we go. I'm going to share. Like, look at this. I'm going to bring down the banner. So look at this. See, this is it. It's all about Wonder Woman dealing with her dual identities and learning that maybe she doesn't have to be Wonder Woman all the time. And it's like you see Wonder Woman going through her day to day. I love where she stops some guys that were like robbing a bank or something like that, and then she's like, "Okay, just give me the guns. Oh, Wade admitted that he doesn't get Wonder Woman in her world. He said he's trying, but truth is he really isn't trying with her and her lore. He also made her punch Kellogg because he wanted to save Lex life. I know, right? That was very weird. But look at this. This is when you get like Alex Ross and Paul Dini writing, where she's like saving people from trains and stuff. And then you get the dope Alex Ross art. And it's her not just being a warrior. She's like peaceful and she's talking to animals. She meets with her mother. And she's more of the ambassador. She saves someone from being like crushed by a tank. This is my favorite image from the book, by the way, of like looking up, because it's very much like, and this is one of the reasons why I love DC more than Marvel, because I've always been a big fan of Greek mythology, and DC significantly weighs into that way more than Marvel. And this image just summarizes it so perfectly. You're looking up at her as she shows this feat of strength. She flips over the tank. And then again, it's like Wonder Woman goes and saves people from like a thing. And this, the other thing, I love the way Alex Ross draws the invisible jet, because it's invisible, but you see the door and it's like the rain is peltering on, so you can only see the outline through the jet itself. And she talks to Clark, and she stops like someone from shooting up a protest. And it's basically her traveling around the world trying to like connect more with humanity. And I love this image. She stops these women from being put in a camp, and and they throw like a propane barrel at her. She just walks through the fire like it's nothing. And I'm like, see, this is how you make Wonder Woman awesome, is you do this. Whereas opposed to, then you also have like stories like Wonder Woman's was essentially a Wonder Woman story, Justice League Spirit Truth, Justice League League of One, where she literally takes down the entire Justice League, including Batman. And it's like, yeah, because there's a prophecy that the League are gonna die, that whoever confronts this dragon are gonna die, and Wonder Woman basically says, no, send me instead, my life for theirs. And I'm like, that is 150% what Wonder Woman would do. And it's Mueller, how you pronounce his name. But I remember watching that, and I remember reading that, especially for the book for the show. And I'm reading this, and I'm like, why doesn't Wonder Woman get written by this all the time? Because this is great. But again, it's like, because you have these people that you have certain writers that understand Diana and understand her world to a freaking T. And yet, you also have the prominent writers just don't get her, like Mark Waid. And I'm like, dude, then why are you including her in that book if you don't understand her? Why are you doing that? Because if you're not going to understand her, you're not going to respect her world, then get out. I'm going to tell you this right now. Any creative somehow watching this, if you don't get Diana and you don't understand her world and don't really like her world, if you don't like her world, stop writing her. And number two, if you don't understand the character, read a comic and understand her character, or consult with one of the Wonder Woman writers that have written runs that people like I don't know, Simone, Rocca. Read the Perez run. It's not like it's hard. Here's what they don't get. Use the Perez run as a template and build off of that. Because what did the Perez run do? Wonder Woman did not have a love interest, so the whole issue with people focusing too much on the love interest goes right out the window. Then you add into the fact that Wonder Woman significantly developed as she grows in man's world. Then you have Julie and Vanessa, her essentially her mother / sister figures. And then she just does dope things all the time, fights creatures out of Greek mythology. She fights the gods. There is so much in that run that when you look at everything Perez was able to do with Wonder Woman, it is astounding. Not all of it ages well or is like perfect, but mostly it is like a solid depiction of Wonder. It's near perfect. That's what I say, near perfection. Not perfect, but near perfection. An Absolute Wonder Woman, I'm going to tell you right now, that is the same level. Absolute Wonder Woman is on the level of the Perez run of Wonder Woman, in my humble opinion. Because, yes, it is a vastly different world, but Diana 100% acts and feels like regular Diana. And somehow they managed to get that so right on the first try. Like normally it takes like what I've experienced, and this is why I stayed so long on the Tom King Wonder Woman book before I dropped it, because normally it does take certain writers time to get an understanding of the character before they all of a sudden get it. That has happened before. Absolute Wonder Woman has gotten it since issue 1, and I'm like, how is that? Is just how does this work so well? Like, it is utterly it. I am just perpetually in shock because of this. Like, I have, the more I read about I got to be honest. It's like every single month when I go to my comic book store to pick up my pulls, because I go once a month. It's like every single month I'm like, I get to read Absolute Wonder Woman again. Yay. That Green Lantern and the rest of the Absolute books, honestly, are like 100% that keep bringing me back over and over and over again to DC. And chances are they will. And I think the Absolute Universe is honestly here to stay, which I'm happy about. With the amount of sales it's bringing in for DC, like, it was estimated to me by someone that I trust that about there's been I think it was like a 40% increase, or like a significant increase in like teenage kids starting pull lists because the Absolute Universe. So I'm like, oh, okay. I dig that a lot, because you're getting the next generation to pick up DC books. Now, just because essentially just because um not every Absolute book is necessarily your favorite thing doesn't necessarily mean it's not bringing other people into the comic book store. And honestly, if other people are coming into the comic book store, that is honestly that is what this industry needs. That is 110% what this industry needs, because again, it's like, we need people showing up to pick up these books. We just do. That's the only way that the industry like keeps running. But so that's end of my tirade. But anyway, so what other questions do you guys have before we wrap up? Any other points that you would like for me to address? Any Wonder Woman points that you would like for me to address? Any suggestions for future content? You can let me know. Any content with that. And by my Thunderbolts review, we're gonna be doing a review stream on that probably the next weekend to talk about it. But yeah, so we'll be doing that. We'll be doing that. But what other questions do you guys have? How is your local comic book store still open? I've been seeing that they've been going out of business. It depends on like what they're doing, but like my store doesn't just sell comics; they sell other stuff. But it just depends on what you do with them. And what this one does that I really like is they give you punch cards that you can like redeem every time you go into the store on a separate day. And once you get 10, you get like a big discount on everything. So I normally just keep going and stuff. Plus the staff there is really nice. It's the Docking Bay 95 Comics. And it really just depends on the store and the owners and how they conduct the business, because a lot of stores are closing, but some of them are actually starting to recover. So that's comforting at the very least. What else you guys got? What else you guys got? And then, by the way, Super Wonder Legacy is going to be coming out on Monday, where Britt and I do a deep dive on the new 52 version of Wonder Woman, and honestly review it and talk about if she's really that as bad as Wonder Woman fans depict her. Did you ever watch the Legion superhero shows in the? Yeah, I didn't. I want to. That's always been a show that that I've been interested in. So let me do that. Legion of Superheroes series that has interested me. It's just I've never gotten the chance to check it out. But I definitely, that's something that I definitely will check out eventually, because I've heard it's good. I've heard nothing but good stuff from it. So it's definitely something that I would love to check out. It came on the old it came on the old Kids WB channel at the time. Yep. But yeah, I think that's a good place to leave it. So we're gonna wrap it up. So next week's movie night, I think it's going to be. So it's it'll probably be a Robert thing, but make sure you guys check what I'm in 20. I can let us know. Yeah, exactly. So actually, you know what? I'll check that real quick. NJ. Most likely that'll be here the 8th of the month. Like that's the way it was last time. But let me check. Top 50 comics, April 2025. Yeah, because as far as I know, they haven't come up yet. No, they haven't yet, which again, it'll probably be the 8th. And yes, I will 100% report to you guys as soon as we get those rankings. So let's reconvene on that probably next weekend. I think that is most likely when we're going to have them. And by the way, so a couple of things. So obviously, again, so on Monday, Super Wonder Legacy is going to come out, where Britt and I talk about new 52 Wonder Woman. And then Wonder Woman Wednesday, I'm formulating what I want to do for that. Thursday night is going to be the members panel. So if you would like to join us and to talk about stuff, ask me questions live on the air, then consider becoming a member at any tier. And then and next week for Under Two Capes, NJ suggested that we discuss how we would make a Wonder Woman game. So we'll be doing that. Great suggestion, NJ. And in terms of movie night, I'll get back to you guys on what the topic is going to be. And obviously, yes, I will be attentive on when the top 50, when the April ranks for comics come out, because then we can laugh, because I don't think that, again, Wonder Woman 20 is going to recover. Unless it could, but I highly doubt it. I really do. But anyway, guys, stay heroic. Remember, Lois Lane is also yes. That's going to be a list. That's down the line for Super Wonder, because we have some topics already lined up. But that's one that we'll definitely be doing, NJ, and we'll still give you a shout out on that. So stay heroic, everyone. Remember, Lois Lane is Lois Lane, and Steve Trevor, Steve Never. He belongs 6 feet in the ground. She belongs with General Zod, Zois, and Maxabat for life. I will see you later. Bye-bye.